morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at the Lost Zone. Yeah, that's right. The Lost Zone is properly back in the Pokémon TCG, and yeah, sure, earlier we had a little bit of a look at Giratina, and I showed you how that interacts with the Lost Zone, and that's rather lovely. But oh, ladies and gentlemen, there is so much more than just Giratina V-Star. The Lost Zone is properly back, and I, for one, am pretty gosh darned excited. Now, all your translations here come from the lovely Antoine Boulet, and I think it's fair to say at this stage, we need to split into categories. So let's start off with the first category, cards that put cards into your Lost Zone. Lovely. And what we've basically got here are a couple of them, and that is Comfy and Chorus's Experiment. Now, Comfy is actually like a legit really good card, because it's a basic Pokemon with draw power. We don't see many of them, and they are good. Oh, I'm not going to talk much about the Psychic Colorless Energy 30 damage. I think we can move on from that. And what we've got here is an ability, Flower Picking. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may look at the top two cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand, and the other one into the Lost Zone. Yes, that sounds very good to me, ladies and gentlemen. That sounds very good to me. Love it. Absolutely love it. Because here's the thing, right? Firstly, it's getting a card. Now, it's not draw 2. It's not as good as that. But it's not draw 1, it's better than that. Essentially, what you're doing is picking the best card from the top 2, but, and this is pretty important, it has the fairly significant downside of having to go into the Lost Zone. That is the other card. If you use Comfy, there are going to be times where you go to use this and you hit two cards that you really don't want to put in the Lost Zone. Gutted. Because one of them's going to have to go to the Lost Zone. So you have been warned that is really important. However, this is basic Pokemon draw power. It's phenomenal. Has to be in the active, have to put a card in the Lost Zone. There are downsides, but basic Pokemon draw is good. And of course, you are putting a card into the Lost Zone, and we're going to get to a category of Lost Zone cards in a moment, which take advantage of cards being in the Lost Zone, and that is really good. The other card we've got here is Chorus's Experiment. That is a lovely new supporter card, lets you look at the top 5 cards of your deck, and you put 3 of them into your hand, and the rest of them into the Lost Zone. Incidentally, you'll notice any cards that interact with the Lost Zone here do have that aura around them, which looks kind of cool. Now, this is very reminiscent of an old supporter card you'll recognise if you were playing in the Heart Gold Soul Silver days. This is Sage's Training. Now, Sage's Training let you look at the top 5 cards of your deck. 2 went in your hand and 3 went in the discard. Here it's 3 in your hand, 2 in the Lost Zone. And the rule with Sage's Training was you always hit a second Sage's Training. Every time you played Sage's Training, you ended up discarding a Sage's Training. I don't know why, it just happened every single time. I can't explain it. But the point here is that it's quite an aggressive draw card. You get 3 of the top 5 cards, that's really good. But just like we said with Comfy, because this is really just Comfy but, taken to the nth degree, there will be times where you hit cards you really don't want to Lost Zone and are forced to. Really, playing in a regular deck, there is a strong argument that the cost of this is too high, that Lost Zoning random cards is going to lead to heartbreak more often than not. However, if you're just using this as a way to draw in a deck that really wants cards in the Lost Zone, that is a very different proposition, and in that regard, I adore it. Regular decks, bit too risky. Lost Zone decks, absolutely phenomenal. Now, they're cards that we're really playing because we want cards in the Lost Zone, but what about cards that have the Lost Zone as a cost? Good cards, but you've got to pay with the Lost Zone. like Bayonet, for instance. Now, Bayonet is a Stage 1 Pokemon with a garbage attack that we're not even going to mention, but it's got the ability Puppet Memorial. Once during your turn, you may choose a supporter card from your discard pile, reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you do, put this Pokemon into the Lost Zone. Now, if you're thinking about wanting cards in the Lost Zone, it's actually really important to note that this will put both Shuppet and Bayonet in the Lost Zone, so you're actually getting 2 extra cards in the Lost Zone. For some cards we're going to see in a minute, that is actually extremely relevant. But what we've basically got here is Eldegoss, except instead of being a basic Pokemon you put from your hand to your bench, it is a Stage 1 Pokemon that you activate from your bench. Firstly, this means your opponent can stop it. Hey, they've got a basic Pokemon, let's KO it. But it also means you can't be stopped with Path to the Peak because you don't have a rule box. It means you're not taking up a bench space, because whereas Eldegoss V goes onto the bench, Bayonet comes off of the bench. There are significant advantages to using Bayonet over Eldegoss, mostly that it's not turned off by stuff like Path to the Peak, and that you don't have a bench space being used afterwards, which is awesome. And we've all played Eldegoss. We all know how useful it can be to get a supporter card back. That's very, very important. That's very good. We like this. This is awesome. So yeah, this is just a really good card. Your opponent's gonna see it coming, which is a little bit of a pain, but outside of that, there are significant advantages. Getting a supporter card back is good. I like this. How about a new stadium card? How about Lost City? When a Pokemon is knocked out, put it in the Lost Zone instead of discarding it. Now, what I don't like here, it's a new stadium, but it's not drawn by Kato. Boo! I do actually really like the design. The design is cool, but it's not drawn by Kato. Boo! But this is kind of cool, because there are a couple of different things going on with this stadium. Firstly, like I keep mentioning, sometimes we want cards to go into the Lost Zone. So if you're trying to build up a Lost Zone, then having a stadium that puts your Pokemon in the Lost Zone when they're discarded, that's really good. But also, this puts your opponent's Pokemon in the Lost Zone when they get KO'd. And that means they're not coming back. And that's huge. Like, that is a gigantic advantage here. You're basically saying to your opponent, enjoy that, it's not coming back. Because, let's take something like Dunsparce as a nice little example. Dunsparce is a great card, which is generally used to take away weakness from stuff like Arceus. Thing is, if you're an Arceus deck and I'm a fighting deck, then not only are you going to want to get Dunsparce in play as soon as possible, but you're going to be mucking around with stuff like Ordinary Rod to get it back and put it back into play when I KO it, because it's so important. But there's no way you're playing more than one Dunsparce. It's going to be prized in the occasional game, but you also know that you don't need it in every game, so you're going to take that risk. So if I KO it with Lost City in play, it's not coming back. And that's the point here. There are 2 great uses for this stadium. Firstly, yay, my Pokemon are getting KO'd, they go to the Lost Zone, that's good, I want a Lost Zone. And yay, my opponent's Pokemon are getting Lost Zoned, they're not coming back. Of course, that can also hurt you. If you're playing it to get your opponent's Pokemon to not come back, that could also happen to you, so be a little bit careful there. But make no mistake about it, this is awesome. And what we're talking about here is a very specific kind of stadium. This is not the kind of stadium that people are just going to use willy-nilly because they don't know what to play. You are using this for the 2 uses I've already outlined. But if you want that, this is absolutely brilliant. Hey, speaking of cards that you have to pay, how about Lost Sweeper? Now, this is a new item card. Put a card from your hand into the Lost Zone to use this card. Choose either a Pokemon tool or stadium in play, and put it into the Lost Zone. It's a Dustbuster! But, it puts stuff into the Lost Zone. Now, I could have put this card in the previous category, because what you can do here quite nicely, if you're really trying to build up a big Lost Zone fast, what you can do is basically play a stadium or tool card, and then you play this, put a card from your hand into the Lost Zone, and then put that stool or stadium into the Lost Zone, and then you've got 2 extra cards in now, which is lovely. But what this also does is it takes tools and stadiums and puts them straight into the Lost Zone. But I will tell you, this is not quite as useful as some others, because recovering tools and stadiums isn't really something that we see very often. I'm going to be honest with you there. You can get them back, tools more so than stadiums, but it's not something we see very often. Now, do remember that Rosens Backup will actually get a Pokemon tool and a stadium from your discard pile into your deck. And Rosens Backup does see a little bit of play here and there, which is kind of lovely. But generally speaking, we don't tend to recover these. We don't get many cards that have them. You know, the ability to recover, I mean. And even when they do, we don't tend to play them very much. Rosens Backup is probably the most relevant one we've got at the moment. So as much as I like taking these cards and spitefully putting them into the Lost Zone rather than putting them into the discard, I am absolutely aware that in a lot of decks, there's not really much of a difference. But then again, there's not much of a difference now. We don't know what cards are going to be released in the future. We might get some really good stadium and tool recovery that people end up playing. And if that ends up being the case, then obviously this card becomes a lot more important. Or you can use this to pad your Lost Zone. Either works just fine. And hey, how have we gotten this far without talking about Dell Fox V? Now, I like Dell Fox. Dell Fox has special significance to me personally. It's an in-joke between my wife and I'm not going to share right now, but I like me some Dell Fox. I really don't like the art on this card, incidentally. This could have been a Kawaii Pokemon V, and that would have been amazing. So yeah, cheers for that. But we do have a pretty good Pokemon V. 210 HP is quite high. Single fire energy, burn and confusion. It's not great, I'll be honest with you. But you know what? In the early game, it's not bad. Burn's going to put 2 damage counters on between turns, and then they have to flip a coin to be unburned between turns. And then confusion means they're going to have to flip a coin to try and attack, and if they flip tails, the attack fails, and they take 3 damage counters. It's not stunning, but it is fine. And sometimes that's enough. So yeah, I'm not loving this, but it's alright. What I do very much like is free energy, 120 damage, put 2 energy from this Pokemon into the Lost Zone, but it also does 120 to one of your opponent's bench. Yeah, that's phenomenal. Like, we've seen attacks that do this in the past, that do good damage to the active and to the bench. I mean, Jolteon V Max is an example here, but Jolteon V Max is a free prize evolved Pokemon. This is a 2 prize basic Pokemon. That makes a difference. And you know what? This is good. Now, we've seen this with stuff like, Magnezone Prime is a classic example I find. Good attacks that make you Lost Zone your own energy to use them. Magnezone Prime let you Lost Zone as much of your energy as you like. And you did 50 damage for each one Lost Zoned. And you will sometimes run out of energy because you're a bit careless with this attack. And that's actually really important here, because when energy goes to the Lost Zone, it ain't coming back. So it's not just that you are getting your cards into the Lost Zone, it's that they're not coming back. That energy's gone. And that's really important to remember. We remembered? Good. Because this is a phenomenal attack. And we got Magma Basin at the moment, and Magma Basin's going to get one of those energy on. So, 1 energy super easily with Magma Basin, 1 energy attachment for the turn. You can always, if you really want to try, and I keep suggesting this, no one keeps using it, but Turbo Patch will work here. That's going to be around for a little while longer. Or any energy acceleration, something like Melanie will work. Now, I know it's for a water energy, but Melanie will attach it to any Pokemon. And you do have a colorless cost here. So you absolutely can attach for turn, Magma Basin, Melanie. You can use this turn 1 going second. This is a legit turn 1 going second attack. So that's something to really bear in mind. This is good. Like, really good. Good enough that maybe I should have given it its own video good. I love Dell Fox V, and if you use the right combination of cards, you've got an absolute monster turn 1 attack here, and if you Melanie a water energy on, do remember you only have to Lost Zone 2 energy cards to use this, and it is energy cards, not energy, so no, you cannot attach double turbo energy and just Lost Zone that to pay the cost, which is a bit annoying, but then every turn, you can just, whoa, Magma Basin. Attach. Boom. I legit love Dell Fox V. Not the art. The art really disappoints me, but the card is great. Now, we do have a couple of other cards there, just to finish off with, that take advantage of having cards into the Lost Zone. So, let's take Cramer as a nice example. 110 HP is fine. The attack is free energy, 110, not affected by weakness, which is actually super annoying, because 110 double with weakness is 220, which is the perfect amount of damage to KO a Pokemon V. So this would be a really good counter, except it doesn't actually work, because, I mean, counter for, fire Pokemon V, but it doesn't work because you're not hitting for weakness. But if you have 4 or more cards in your Lost Zone, ignore all energy in this Pokemon's attack costs. Yeah, that's going to make a difference, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to make a big difference. Basically, if you can get 4 cards in a Lost Zone, and with all the stuff I've shown you in this video, that's not taking a lot. It's 110 damage for 0 energy on a basic Pokemon. Which, incidentally, is why you don't hit for weakness. Because if you did, this would be arguably too good. So that is something very much to bear in mind. I like this. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I like this very, very much indeed. It's not stunning, but in any Lost Zone deck, the idea of a Pokemon that can attack for no energy, that's pretty good. And then finally, we can finish with the item card, Mirage Gate. It's an item card that you can only play if you have 7 or more cards in your Lost Zone, search your deck for up to 2 basic energy of different types, and attach them to your Pokemon in any way that you like. This card is like full on broken. This is absolutely ridiculous, but you've got to have 7 or more cards in your Lost Zone to play it. It's Beast Ring. Remember how great Beast Ring was? Because it searched for 2 basic energy and attached them to one of your Ultra Beast. It was amazing, but it had the other big downside of you can only play it if you had 3 or 4 prize cards remaining exactly. And make no mistake, right? Giratina V-Star that I showed you, free energy, 280. But Grass, Psychic, Colorless, not ideal. Yeah, this is going to be able to search for those perfectly. And you'll notice, if you look at the artwork here, it is clearly Psychic and Grass energy that they're hinting towards quite strongly. So that's pretty redonkulous. Or Dell Fox that I showed you, that wants to Lost Zone 2 energy every time it attacks, will get a fire in something else. You're golden. And you need 7 cards in your Lost Zone. But I showed you Comfy, and I showed you Colress, and I showed you Bayonet. There are ways to get these cards into your Lost Zone, and that is going to be awesome. And incidentally, both Giratina and Dell Fox have to Lost Zone energy in order to attack. Dell Fox has to be 2 energy cards from itself. Giratina is 2 energy, could be a double energy card, from anywhere on the field. Yeah. As the game wears on, and these Pokemon Lost Zone more and more energy, Mirage Gate gets closer and closer to being on board, being useful, being viable, being able to be played. And that becomes amazing. Seriously, there are some phenomenal cards here. I mean, Mirage Gate is broken as soon as it's able to be used. Dell Fox V, I think, is legitimately great. Bayonet gets your supporters back. Comfy is basic Pokemon draw. Colress is a really aggressive new supporter. These are things that are really, really worth getting excited about. And hopefully now you can all see why the Lost Zone coming back is a big deal. These cards are good. But this video's gotten long enough, so now I want to hear from you guys. Tell me what you think about all of these cards. Tell me what you're excited for the Lost Zone. Tell me if I'm going a bit nuts as to how good I think Dell Fox V is. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.